American soldiers of the 32nd Infantry Division grabbed one of their officer prisoners to send a message to General Ushijima in the hopes to get him to surrender. The Japanese officer traversed up Mabuni Hill and was about to reach one of the many entrances to the cave. Instead of allowing him in, with fear of a possible American ambush, the Japanese defenders blew the entrance to the cave from the inside. In response, the Americans began using flamethrowers, both on foot and with their tanks. It took over 5,000 gallons of gasoline before the flamethrowers eradicated any resistance atop Mabuni Hill. By June 22nd, the battle for Mabuni Village had reached its end. Americans breached the final machine gun entrenchments, and flamethrowers snuffed out any remaining resistance. Other Japanese defenders faced grenades, or being run over by Sherman tanks. This did not bode well for the general staff still remaining in the caves overlooking the village. Inside were still several men and women, too wounded to evacuate. They all awaited their fates, their time on this earth about to end. Their apprehension seemed destined when a sharp explosion rocked the entire HQ. Colonel Yahara timidly ran to the entrenchments and was greeted by a wounded comrade. The man reported,
"The hill is completely occupied by the enemy. They exploded a satchel charge of the main shaft. There are many casualties around General Cho's quarters."
The lights began to flicker at this time, the Americans aiming their artillery directly atop the caves. Except for the central portions, all electricity had eventually been cut. The only way for anyone to see was by using kerosene lamps and flashlights. Some of the final assaults out of the Mabuni Caves were about to commence. A Lieutenant Akinaga led several of his men up Mabuni Hill for a suicide charge. Once they crested the hill, they all began lobbing grenades at the nearby Americans. The Japanese soldiers were quickly gunned down before they could do much damage. In the process, several live grenades ended up rolling in the opposite direction and toward the caves. The explosions sent shrapnel, dust, and smoke in every direction, wounding several of the soldiers guarding General Ushijima and General Cho. One grenade also landed close to several cowering Okinawan civilians. This horrifically mutilated 2 young girls, and they unfortunately lived. A nearby army medic decided to give them an injection of cyanide, which would end their suffering. After Akinaga's failed attack, the Americans officially occupied the Mabuni Hill summit. Both General Ushijima and Cho had yet to commit harakiri, but they had begun to prepare themselves, both men wishing to die on the territory the Americans now sat upon.